Welcome back, Aggressively Healthy. I think we're back to a Friday regular schedule now. We did a couple weeks in a row, 1 week off, and now we're here. How was your week, Michael?
Can we just bring up the fact that we won't be here that much longer?
Oh, yeah. How about that?
New studio.
Big news. We're going to have a new studio. The background might be a little different than some swords, cold, hard facts of expensive things on boards and true romance. But our new space will be a little bigger, maybe a little bolder, maybe a little more aggressively healthy. But all in all...
Maybe you should point out why we have a new space.
So we have a new space because we're expanding. The medical end of the business and the training end of the business and the nutritional end of the business are all growing, where it's now become a space occupying issue. So the area across our parking lot here will now house our new, quote unquote, I guess, headquarters, RTS Health. The gym is not moving. The space is not really changing in terms of area. We're just absorbing more space. So now the whole goal is in kind of a health compound, right?
Yeah.
And I think the vision from when we started was something like that. What do you think?
I mean, the whole point of all this was to have the most comprehensive collection of people and providers, and now we're bringing in everyone met Mark before, but
Yep.
Physical therapy. He's going to be running his team through here, so we'll have multiple providers. We have the Strong Kitchen that does a lot of our prepared meals and nutrition resources,
Yep.
and they're going to be expanding their menu per se, as well as the other offerings that we won't talk about just yet, but some of the stuff on the medical side that we will now be able to offer
Yes.
in the way that we want to offer them.
And the other cool thing, Mike said PT. I think it's pretty neat, and we should revisit the fact that, yes, there will be PT involved, but our philosophy drives the fact that PT and training are essentially the same continuum of effort physically. So whether you're injured, not injured, rehabbing, not rehabbing, or trying to just be a life athlete, I did a post today, like trying to live for your kids, not just, we all know you're willing to die for your kids, guys. We see it. It's clear as day. We're looking for the people that are willing to live for them. And I think that training continuum with everyday life athletes should be embraced, because physical therapy, like, just for a second, maybe we touch the topic again. Like, why do we associate physical therapy with an injury? For instance, this is kind of nuts, not to get off topic, because we will talk about GLP-1s by the end of this episode. I had a client yesterday, overweight, in very good shape compared to where he was. So we've made insane amounts of progress. He hurt his meniscus in his knee. So that's a little piece of cartilaginous padding between the two bones in your knee, so that when you step down, it doesn't feel like bone on bone. His orthopedic surgeon, fully well-trained MD, ortho is very hard to get into. So you have to be really smart on the book. Like, you got to be able to re-vomit and regurgitate information really well. But if you can do that, you get the privilege of doing surgery, which is a technical skill with judgment. So if you can regurgitate, your judgment might not be accessible. I don't believe. Because every really good multiple choice test taker I know, like really good, can't tie their shoes, right? Because it's purely A equals B. They can't fucking think, or else every answer is appropriate almost. So that orthopedic surgeon, well-trained, told this guy, who's now made progress over the course of about 2 years with cardiovascular fitness, weight loss, and all of this, and now his knee's hurting, still hurting. So he goes, listen, we're going to fix the knee by you the next 2 months. Do not move. You can't exercise. You have to let this knee relax. And we're going to put you in a brace that puts pressure on the femur and the tibia to try to open the joint space. I don't really know where to start with the stupidity of what that means, right? He doesn't obviously understand physiology of like healing. So take an active body and put him on a couch. That's not going to help any inflammatory processes. And then if it's bone on bone, you're going to make more space in the joint for what? There's no cartilage. So if you don't talk to that guy about nutrition, protein intake, collagen production, vitamin C, vitamin D, calcium, boron, all of these factors that affect bone formation, which actually interacts with cartilage, because cartilage is the most distal aspect of newly forming bone. Bone just turns into cartilage. Whether anyone wants to argue it, it is fact. So how do we deal with something like that? Because in an age like this, at this point in time, to tell somebody to sit on a couch to heal with physical therapy in our mind and our spectrum, like how do we tell the human population out there that's not the right approach anymore?
We've hit on this a couple times, just how disconnected medicine is to physical medicine, metabolic medicine, and the complete siloed effect of what their skill and their knowledge is compared to the practical application for the end user.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a great example. And it reminds me of the cliche of like, pick your surgery, but it's like the surgery was a success. We fixed the X.
Yeah.
But the patient died.
Right.
You know, it's the same mindset. It's just now it's at a longer timeline.
Yeah.
You know, like, so because at a long enough period of time, that guy will go away because of the prescription. Right. So even if the knee feels better, everything else is compromised now. His whole lifestyle that has gotten him to this point of moving in the right direction is now at a halt.
And this brings me into the topic of GLP-1. Because there's multiple ways to attack GLP-1. And I think entry into this arena is, if you are the GLP-1 provider who has the same brain power as that wonderful orthopedic surgeon who told someone to stop moving to heal, you will then become the provider that just prescribes GLP-1s. And if someone walks in your office and you're a doctor and you do not have direct association with a gym, and this is a bold statement because I'm actually putting my foot in the ground. This is a line in the sand. If you are a bariatric surgery, metabolic health doctor in any arena, and you do not have a direct line of access to training and nutrition, and I mean direct, not like go to a gym, figure it out. I'm talking like you talk to the person training that human, you should not prescribe anything. Barrier to entry for metabolic health should be direct association with a gym. Med spa, I don't care. You have a gym, good. Open a med spa and a gym, go for it. No problem. Just fulfill the criteria that we owe to the population of actually thinking about exercise and nutrition. So with that statement made, let's get into GLP-1s, right? And I'm going to set the stage. Right now, it's a big cultural movement. But what's the driving force behind this cultural movement? It's illness, right? So how do we even embrace it? Because we get yelled at. I mean, maybe you don't catch as much heat because I use the word fat a lot, and I don't mind it because that's actually what the tissue is. It's fat. Like if it was on the floor, you'd be like, oh, that's fat. So we call it fat. Why is there such an epidemic, pandemic, whatever we want to call it, with obesity? And how now do we relate that information to people that, like, if you take a population that's body fat percentage 40% and you just lower their entire body weight with muscle mass and fat, it's the same metabolic disaster. So the prescribers are not really holding accountability themselves. The gym people are allowing that to be used without knowing, maybe outside the gym arena, the metabolic end of it. So how do we tell people this is kind of the start, that we know this cultural movement is happening, but we're setting the stage almost for that, and then entry into an arena like this, because this is the only way I think you can really give them a good healthcare experience. How do we culturally let people know this exists?
I'll start with drawing the analogy to a healthy business. And I think it's easier to think about it this way because, again, this is how I explain it to a lot of our clients because they're business owners or they're involved in business. And there's something in business called KPIs to measure the health of a business. So KPI means key performance indicator. There's usually multiple blah, blah, blah. But everyone, like when you're talking about the health of business, everyone starts at revenue. Right. Like what's the gross? What does the business make? Right. And they judge the effectiveness or the health of the business based on revenue. Right. But when revenue's low, they really don't know what to look at. So if you were hiring a consultant or someone to help you figure out like the nuts and bolts of your business, a coach, right? Anything. But what they're trying to do is not establish the leading indicator. They want to know the first indicator that would then drive the rest of the pipeline down. Right. You know, so let's just say in the revenue standpoint, it's actually the cost. It doesn't matter how much money you make. Right. Your costs continue to rise, which chews up the margin, which is actually the take-home money.
And that's the result.
Right. And we see this in the obesity epidemic because all we talk about when it comes to obesity is weight. Yes. And it's it is a key performance indicator. It's just not the first one we should talk about. So it's really trying to get in front of all the things, and it's just the domino effect. How far in the front end can we get to? Because if we influence that one, all the other ones will have an effect, and hopefully the positive effect that we're looking for that will eventually get to revenue or get to the body weight.
And if you look at a really obese person, that's like a business run by somebody who their revenue line, they start to trim fat so much that they're the only ones building on the business. That's how they get overweight. But then eventually they get to the point where their muscle mass is so low, their fat mass is so high, they become terribly efficient at their output that they don't expend anything.
That's exactly right.
All of it then becomes savings. It's like winning the lotto. Metabolic lotto victory is obesity. You have trained your body with such a small amount of muscle to burn such a little amount of fuel so you can save everything. Wonderful. Hoarding, right?
It's an interesting way to put it, because if you look at the cost of tissue,
the
metabolic cost of tissue, fat has almost no metabolic cost.
Zero.
Muscle is very expensive, and that's why it can go away very easily, because the body's always trying to preserve calories. Well, it's always trying to consume less.
It's also, even in bodybuilding world, like if you see a super wealthy person and they're obese, they've spent all their money on their cars and their clothes, and fucking anybody can do that. I mean, like, that's not rocket science.
Yeah.
And really, I don't know. Sometimes if you get there the wrong way, maybe it's not even appropriate. But if you see somebody jacked up with a set of abs and veins and stuff, like that person put a ton of effort, expense, and time, which to me, I don't care about your Rolex, your BMW, or whatever. Like, you got some veins on your form and you can pick up your body weight off the ground, like all day we'll do business. And I think that arena has changed a lot. But the biggest thing that's going on right now is everybody's talking about these GLP-1s and nobody's talking about what has to happen around them. Think about it, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is that's what we're fixing today. So we present you guys with a problem, whoever's listening, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, but we're also going to give you the answer, because it's really a personal thing, but then it's the environment you put yourself in. So the biopsychosocial type aspects of eating habits, social habits of your surrounding friends, family, all of that factors in. So if somebody comes in and says to us, we want weight loss, I want a GLP-1. How do we kind of approach that? And what are we seeing in terms of the gym world and the ask from your end? Because I'll share my side, but your side's probably a little different with the barrier to entry for a GLP-1.
I will say, when most people bring up a GLP-1 to me or the training staff, it's more of a question of, is it right? Rather than I think I need it. You know, because most of the people are, it's fairly new, even though now it's a common practice, and the access to these things are, in my opinion,
too much,
way too much. But when they're asking about a GLP-1, it's typically because they're already into something that they know has got them into the next spot of their life,
right,
or progressing in a way, and they're really looking at is, does this amplify what I do?
Right.
And I think that's the most appropriate question, as using it as something that's additive rather than the thing they're depending on. Right. And because they're already, like, if they're already coming here, they're already looking at their food. They're already
cognizant of something.
Yeah, right. And that's why I would put it, and I think it's the appropriate way of looking at it, as an additive component or tool in their set.
And you brought up an interesting thing, access, right? Access to training is readily available. You can go online and click and it'll be like, oh yeah, sign up for a program anywhere.
Here's an app.
And we would promote that too. So do that. Fine. Go do the exercise. Do not translate that into just going online, clicking on a GLP-1, ordering success, because all you're ordering is a metabolic disaster if you don't know what you're doing.
Correct.
Now, from your end, you see that. I see a lot of, I see like a one or two types of things. One is pure fear about the GLP-1 arena and the metabolic health world. So they come in and the first thing they say is, I don't want any GLP-1s. And I say, okay, that's not what we were going to do anyways. But I understand that fear because they assume everybody on the planet just wants to push GLP-1s. The proper use of a GLP-1 is only if they're willing to do the training and the exercise to start. Because the barrier of entry metabolically has to be some sort of energy demand. And if you look at a GLP-1 or the single, double, or triple agonist style meds, all of them are there to do one thing. And the one thing is, if you were burning a fire, they would turn up the heat. The second thing, which retatrutide, which is the third generation, however the hell we want to pronounce it, RET, we'll call it, because the name is irritating as shit. That is a triple agonist. So that hits a lot of different things. And the craziest part, I've been talking a lot about the laws of thermodynamics, but the triple agonist actually does that. So it signals insulin and glucagon all at the same time. So you're in an insulin use, and you're in a lipolysis, and you're in a state of almost feeling fed. Well, your body will then turn to burning stored fuels rather than just purely ingested. It's kind of an impossible task biochemically to wrap your head around if you can't think outside the box. So the average practitioner thinks we work in a binary system. It's either insulin on or glucagon on, and that's how they teach it. In pancreatic endocrine medical societies and teaching, it's either your pancreas is releasing glucagon or it's insulin, and you're either in a fed or a starved state. But what happens between feeding and then, like, that's it? So, like, starving is the second after you eat? Is it 3 minutes after? Is it an hour? Like, when does the starvation begin? Because it really never begins. You eat, and technically the starvation time starts immediately. So that insulin glucagon transfer becomes a big deal. If you go do that without the training exercise in the background, you will suffer all of the bad consequences. So how now, when somebody comes in, because I know in my arena, I can explain that medically with data. How do you convince the person that's just like listening to us out there, because they may not know all this data, they may not want to sit with us? How do we get the masses to realize that we have to institute the training and exercise? And then it's not a bad boy drug. It's actually a really good metabolic enhancer.
It's funny because I think the only saving grace right now is there's still this fear, and it might be disproportional to the reality, is that, like, if I take a GLP-1, I'm going to go through this serious case of muscle wasting and my bones are going to be brittle. And in 10 years, if I'm still on it, there's going to be all these other consequences that we don't even know about. So that's what is like the entry point for the conversation of, like, well, here's the good news. Let's start with like a reasonable nutritional approach, get some training in so that we are actually enhancing your own metabolic system.
Right.
We're increasing your bone density. And then if we need to use that, we can use that again to supplement the things that you're doing.
Yeah.
And if we're doing the nutrition well, and there's a lot of nutritional depth that we should get into when using a GLP-1, but if we're using it correctly and we're training appropriately, those two big fears become less significant.
Yeah.
And then it makes way more sense to actually utilize said, compound.
Right.
As well as it eliminates some of the byproducts of misusing them.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw it in bariatric surgery a lot as a resident. I never did it as intending. So I personally never booked a bariatric surgery case ever in my life. I never wanted to. I never did, on record. But a lot of these issues in bariatric surgery I saw, we would have these people come in. They would get these like crazy psych evals and all this biopsychosocial training and like, okay, are they good candidate for the surgery? I mean, it was all garbage. Check the box, send it to the insurance company. Half the surgeons I knew that operated in New Haven could half the time would just be like, oh yeah, just go with the case. Like, we didn't get the psych eval, no big deal. Because once insurance started covering it without it, it was a full go. Watching that happen, I realized that pre-op planning, the operation was great. And then you launch these people in the world with a set of instructions to follow. And there's follow-up from the medical end. So they come into the office, they see the nursing staff, they get weighed. Of course, they're all losing weight. I never saw one DEXA scan done. I never saw one VO2. I never saw one RMR. I never saw one re-evaluation of mental health, re-evaluation to check progress. All I saw was a total weight, BMI, and send them home. Now, you just cut someone's guts wide open. You rearrange their entire intestinal tract. Absorption of every micro, macronutrient on the planet changes. And we're just like, go have fun. And now we hand them a playbook. We did it with opioids. We prescribed a bottle of opioids, said, here's your pain. Take it every 4 to 6 hours. How'd that go? So now we cut these people's bodies up. We rearrange their metabolic system. We send them out without any post-op training. And I watched people just lose themselves and have every complication you can have. How do you and I get everybody to appreciate the one fact that in here, you will be monitored? If you're one of our clients and you are engaged in a weight loss program where any metabolic work is being done, if you don't come to the gym anymore, we don't deal with your medicine. Does this make sense? And it's pretty straightforward. There are certain people that their lifestyle aspects, I can understand certain differences on timing of when they have availability. But for the majority, you don't give us the effort, we're not giving you the meds. Why? Because it's irresponsible of us. So I think the misconceptions is that we're all just pushing GLP-1s, but we're not, because in here we want the right result. And clinically, I haven't really seen anybody not get the result they want. What's the stereotypic entry into your world of the potential GLP-1 user? Meaning male, female? Is it the majority younger, older, 40s, 50s? Is it for pure aesthetics? Is it because, hey, I want to treat my diabetes? Or what's their first entry and statement? Just kind of what sparked their thought from your perspective.
The tendency is definitely, I would say, at least anecdotally, is middle-aged females that want to lose weight.
Yeah.
They're the most likely prospect to ask or inquire about using a GLP-1. And it's probably just because of the way social media works and marketing strategies. And, you know, like, I mean, look at the people that, you know, the big companies that are marketing machines that push these types of products.
Right.
You know, so they, like, weight loss for middle-aged women has been a thing, is a thing, and isn't going anywhere.
Ever.
So it's really easy to kind of bolt this thing on top of a Weight Watchers, you know, a commercial gym model, so on and so forth. And we've seen this done over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
This like loose integration of medicine and training done horrifically.
Yep.
You know, so the way that it is, it's like there's no accountability on the provider side, and they continue to run their crappy models, their high burn, you know, high churn, high intensity models. And then they're like, and in addition to all that, here's a GLP-1.
Yeah, have fun.
Without real medical guidance. You know, so they're just using it as no different than fat burners 30 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
and
take this fat burner supplement.
I also want to tangent for one moment because I know there is one skeptic out there that's like, they track everyone lifting. And let me give you an example. When I lift or when somebody lifts, I'm not currently as perfect with my numbers because I really don't move much in my weights. But as people train in this gym, you send them programs and your training staff sends them programs, and our staff responds to those by watching what people are doing with reps and weights associated with the reps. There's a heart rate monitor, and then there's an overall weight assessment with in-bodies and DEXAs and whatever else we do. So to answer the skeptic's question about following somebody's training and how do they know they're training? Well, here's how we know. Because our clients, every time they train, send in data. And they send in the weights and the reps. And if it went up or it went down, and we look at that data across the use of a GLP-1 or across the use of their DEXA with their bone density, or across the use of their DEXA with their liver fat, insulin, diabetes, whatever we want to measure relative to the weight they're moving in their muscle mass, guess what, people? We are designing and building metabolically active machines, real active, and it's measurable by what we just said. So if Mike says, hey, Marko, you know, Johnny's on A, B, or C, like he's really losing weight, he's not pushing his reps, whatever, we can intervene. And we're not looking push reps like max out. We're just saying, hey, is that workout good or bad? So the measurement of data becomes a really big thing from the training end. And I think we lose focus on that a lot. So my advice or my statement here, I'd like to change the trend. I mean, I'm actually in my brain convinced we can shatter medicine as it is and really reinvent it because it's happening. And part of that is going to be data gathering. Instead of my chart with like, oh, this was your CBC and this was your X-ray and everything, it should be like health chart. And it should have your DEXA. It should have your your blood levels relative to your liver fat, relative to your fasting insulin, all of these other things incorporated with their physical activity.
And I think it's important to distinguish. We track a ton of data across both service lines. The majority of the data that we are tracking falls under the category of leading indicators. So I probably should have talked about this before.
Yeah.
But there's two types of data sets.
There's
lagging indicators and leading indicators.
Yep.
Most people, the general public and people who maybe aren't as informed, really focus on lagging indicators. We'll use money, for example. I want to make $1 million, so I'm going to check my bank account every day.
Yeah.
What are the odds that there's going to be $1 million there in the end of the month, the end of the year? Whatever?
Zero.
Because you're focusing on the wrong things.
Money.
The same analogy or parallel exists with weight loss. If you just get on a scale every day, there might be some positive movements, but what happens when the scale goes up and you have no understanding why? So that's why the majority of our focus is on leading indicators, which are actually the controllables of the end user.
Yes.
So things like, what do you put in your mouth? What's the composition of the things you put in your mouth? How many steps do you take a day? How much sleep do you get? How much water do you drink? And we've learned time and time again that if you focus more on the leading indicators, that outcome that you desire happens at least a little bit more consistently, and we can depend on those things driving the outcome that you do want.
Yeah, like for instance, somebody takes a GLP-1 and they come in here and they're a female and they're under 40 and they were not severely overweight, and they say to me, this stuff's amazing. I bought it online. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. It's like osteopenia leading indicator is actually the weight loss without the other stuff being in. So leading and lagging indicators, I think we should even probably do an episode discussing that in the gym space, because there's probably a lot of physical cues that are leading indicators that people just don't look at.
Yeah.
And those in here get translated instantly, right? Like somebody in here gets a little bit of bicep tendonitis. What happens? We are all over it. Nobody runs around here with chronic bicep tendonitis that we know about. I mean, there might be people because they don't tell us.
Right.
That's on them. But if we have a leading indicator like that, we instantly can address that, because now you're going to stop them from down the road developing a labral tear because they're overcompensating on their bicep, right? Like all of these things actually do matter. I think a big deal is with the GLP-1, it has to be done the right way, but it's a big ask of the medical community, but it's a bigger ask of those like in-betweeners. And the reason I say that, it would be very easy for you to go get anybody, nurse or whatever, and pop them in here and just be like, hey, fire some GLP-1s out. And guess what? That's happening at every gym around here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a full-blown MD. We follow your lab work to a T. And I'm arguing with random online prescribers that somebody popped in a local gym down the street in North Haven and just like, oh yeah, we sell GLP-1s too. Or women's fitness world where they're just like, oh yeah, come get strong with our group of women. And then like, here's your GLP-1 referral without in-house control. Like it just gets sloppy.
Yeah.
And we're going to lose it. And I'm going to blame you guys because I'm doing the right thing. Mike's doing the right thing. RTS Health is doing the right thing. If you are a med spa and you're just firing GLP-1s out the door with IV nutrition, all this other crap, but you're not associated with a direct physical environment, I don't think you're doing the right thing. I think that's wrong, incorrect. The reframe, the scale going down is not the goal. And that's actually where most GLP-1s are getting it completely wrong. Why do you think people are willing to just lose weight at all costs? And how do we reframe that in terms of, hey, buddy, losing weight at all costs is not actually what you want to do? I had this conversation with someone this morning because he appreciates the fact that he's like, my fat is going down, my muscle mass stays, I'm still feeling strong. I was like, that's how it should be. This is a long haul. It's not a quick fix. In the exercise world, that's pretty easy to translate because it just takes time. Medical people are trained to think, take a pill, instant result. How do we blend that the philosophy you have that drives people to continue to work out and seek progress through kind of, I guess, suffering through the process?
Yeah.
How do we convince people that even if they take the GLP-1, it feels easy, but you have to almost force yourself to feel the process?
Well, what you just said about the medical provider is trained to see something and say, "Hey, take this pill," and it goes away.
Right.
Well, to the uninformed, uneducated consumer, that makes a lot of sense because they don't have any understanding of what lives behind the result. And herein lies the giant double-edged sword aspect of a GLP-1, is because they're thinking in their head they want weight loss. Now you give them something and weight goes down. So they're achieving their outcome.
Right.
They just have no understanding of why it's happening, really. And then what are the external costs or internal costs to doing it that way?
Right.
So this goes back to the idea that this pill is magic.
Right.
It's just like it, but it underscores two real important things about why weight loss is so hard.
Yeah.
It underscores calories in versus calories out, despite what your nutrition philosophy is.
Yep.
It has to do that.
That's it.
You're eating less, right?
Correct.
And then the other thing is, one of the hardest parts about eating less is changing your behavior and then dealing with hunger when you do that.
Right.
So that has totally obviated those the two hardest parts of dieting.
Right.
Right? Because now you don't feel hungry, you don't crave food, you're less likely to overconsume, your calorie consumption goes down, and even if you don't do anything physically different, you lose weight, which is in your head the goal.
Yeah.
The problem is the costs aren't evaluated until they're so expensive where they become unavoidable.
Yeah.
And this is where we see muscle wasting, maybe bone loss, but micronutrient deficiencies, and all other aspects of how you were living is now under some kind of compromise.
Yeah, and as an endocrine medical society, they probably started feeling relatively stupid because they spent the past 100 years discussing insulin and thyroid, and they didn't even get that right. So now a medication comes out, they're probably like, yeah, go take it. Because on the back end of the people not doing this, they're actually supplying themselves with a huge amount of metabolic disasters that they can say, oh yeah, these didn't exist before. We'll start taking care of these diabetic complications from muscle loss. They didn't even know that stuff existed before. So as a byproduct of their stupidity, they got lucky on the back end right now because they're probably going to reap the benefit of a bunch of metabolic disasters that fall in their lap.
Yeah.
Don't be fooled by them. Hospital academics doing endocrinology should not be trusted with your healthcare. I mean that. Let them treat your diabetes with their insulin. Let them do your thyroid. Let them do their thing. The minute it comes to like weight loss, metabolic health without a targeted system being like insulin or thyroid, or like if you can't zone them in on a specific thing, don't listen to what they're saying, because those doctors are focused on the one thing at the sacrifice of everybody else. Well, he didn't die of a heart attack. No, I know, but his head fell off. You know what I mean? Like, great. So I think what we have to do is, as Mike said, retrain everything we're doing, that the final metric you want isn't just the weight loss. It's actually the overall like sensation of strength, which then becomes health. So how do we tell people? Because chemically, what's happening in your body when you take any of these metabolic enhancers is you are activating a fed and a starved state at the same time. So you're acting as if you're eating. So you're going to store and burn glucose as if you were using insulin. There's cells in your upper and lower GI tract that when stuff hits them, they release an enzyme that would give you satiety in your brain, right? And that sort of chemical signaling is done artificially. The GLP medicines, usually the half-life of a normal peptide in the human body that we're trying to recreate is about 1 to 2 minutes. The GLP-1s last for days. So you get that effect over time. Now, it's a beautiful thing because it speeds up the process. So like if you were looking for that result, you just get it quicker. But you have to compensate at the speed of that happening. You have to put in the effort to build the muscle. And if you do, these are amazing meds. If you don't, they're not. The issue then becomes, and this is conceptually the hardest thing, and if anybody can listen to what I'm saying, listen very clearly right now. The concept of carbs causing weight gain is wrong. Carbs are fuel to the muscle. So if you take one of these GLP-1s and you do not fill with carbs, you have to eat as many carbs as you can, you will not fuel your muscle. This entire system doesn't work, and that's when you lose muscle, lose bone. You have to feed the fire. The fire's burning hot, hotter than before. So if you're in a caloric deficit and you're on a GLP-1, Now you've really doubled your caloric deficit. So you almost want to run net neutral-ish. You're going to be in a deficit no matter what. And with the GLP-1, you get those exaggerated results. So here, when we start them on it and we do their nutrition and we do their planning, what's the major thing we always tell them? Eat your carbs and eat your protein.
Yeah.
What have you seen in the people using these when they do eat their carbs and they do eat their protein? How are the results on the gym floor looking like?
I mean, if you're adequately fueled for the physical demands of the gym or your life via proper carbohydrate consumption, and you have the adequate amount of protein to at least keep and preserve the muscle mass that you have, the results are amazing. Like, and I want to make this clear is that, like, I'm all about medication. I'm all about GLP-1s.
Yeah.
They just have to be used in the right context with the right support system.
Yes, and anybody out there, if you clip that and edit it the wrong way, we're going to come for you. No, I know how that works.
Yeah.
I'm on you, buddy. Don't do it. Sorry.
No, but but it is an amplifier of your habits, your behaviors, and your consistency.
Huge.
And I think it helps people unlock a level because of the things I've mentioned. It helps them achieve something that would be really hard to do without.
Yeah.
And I think that is the whole point of these medications.
Yeah.
Is it shouldn't replace or subsidize the effort and the intent. It is the amplify the effects of what you're already doing.
There was a woman in my office, and unfortunately, she was on like a bunch of medications, a pile. And she out loud said, like, I don't want to take those. I think they're dangerous. And I sat back and I was like, I got a question. And she's like, what? I go, what do you think, like, the metoprolol, the lisinopril, the hydrochlorothiazide, the amlodipine, the Linzess, what do you think those are doing to you? Because most of those are actually the garbage. I'm going to try to give you something to enhance your natural metabolic function so that we can maybe get some of those off. That's a really hard conversation because it has been so demonized that what we're doing and what might be helping a metabolism is cheating. But it's not cheating at all. The one thing I believe that solidifies people's results is they have all this trepidation and concern that they're going to lose muscle, blah, 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 all these things, and then they get on a DEXA scan. And I have yet to have any get on that DEXA with muscle loss. Zero muscle loss, increased bone density on every single one I've seen on a metabolic enhancer, and fat loss every single time. I have one who got the medication prescribed to them and had a little bit of a downside. That person is wheelchair bound. Sorry. They couldn't move as well. So their lower body bone density did not reap the benefit, but their upper body incredibly so. So when a paralyzed waist down person, a GLP-1 proved itself in the most N1 of experiments I've ever seen.
Right.
Lower extremity muscle wasting from prior, no problem. A little bit of bone density loss, but upper body complete enhancement. And I don't know how much more we got to talk about that to prove the point inside a human's body that resistance training will increase bone density. The medical layer of this is really deep, and I don't think we have enough real time in one. But the biggest thing to me is if we continue to prove to people that, like, these medications, as you said, are enhancing their ability to get to that result, how do we expose them to that enhanced enjoyment of process as well? Because it was weird yesterday, somebody's like, the gym, I just don't like it. And then I was thinking, not only do I not only like it, I like can't get enough of it. And I don't know how anybody exposed to an environment like this can, right? Like, you're around people that are motivated. There's nobody in here like sobbing in the corner about depression. People walk in here depressed as shit from something on the outside world, and 3 minutes into a workout, they're like throwing arms in the air, high fives. Like, have you ever really seen anybody walk around here the entire workout like super pissed off and leave anxious? Never. It's really never. It's very rare, unless there's like maybe a little injury or something that happens during physical activity. How do we promote that process to the user? Because a lot of you guys out there are going to get stuck in this GLP-1 madness. Like, you're going to go online, even after listening to this, and you're going to click a button and somebody's going to send you something. That's not the right approach. Click the button to come to a place like this. Click the button to go eat well, get some strong kitchen, get some prepared meals, get some supplements, whatever you got to do. but how do we tell people that the actual process is a lot of fun? And I think the result of the process is you feel good. So there is a result during the process, not just the weight loss. And I can't like convey that, but maybe if you can give that in, I don't know, however many years of experience you have with people that get results during the process, but don't see those results as a result. They see it still as the process. But to me, if I do one more curl than I did yesterday, it doesn't matter that I don't have the bicep I want. It means I got stronger today.
I think a lot of it revolves around this idea of identity and maybe pride, or sense of accomplishment. And I would say if we took two people that one was working their balls off for 20 years and built a $1 million business at age 40, and then you take someone who did nothing and then won lottery at 40 for $1 million, I'm sure both would be happy. But when you look back at the body of work and the body of evidence, I'm sure the guy that's, struggled and overcame adversity
way more
and just feels a different sense about himself. And I'm not saying that it's not important to have some of these things that make the process easier, but it doesn't change the process necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think most people's identity is wrapped around what they do and how they feel about what they do.
Yeah.
And there's always, I've never met anyone who's accomplished great things that haven't struggled in, the overcoming of adversity, that has really doubts about themselves or feels less satisfied with the life they have because they've owned it, for lack of a better term.
And an interesting thing happened to me because our professional worlds are very different, right? So you're at like a pinnacle of your professional world. I was at the quote unquote pinnacle, right? Like I made it to surgery. I was an attending. I'm doing my own thing. But in this world, when I said to them that I'm going into a gym to do essentially primary care metabolic medicine, but with the best way we can do it, all of them thought as a regression. So all of that work I did and like all of it's wasted. I was literally told by somebody who's a surgeon, I made a ton of $1.8 million last year. What'd you make? And now you're going to go in the primary. Like, think about that. That statement. To me, it was a privilege that I got to put in all of that effort to get all of the information I needed out of medicine, to then go into another arena with somebody who's at the pinnacle, and I can enhance their effort. I'm like the GLP-1.
Yeah.
I am the enhanced effort, but without you, it's useless. And without me, the struggle's even harder. Like if you put those two thoughts combined, it then becomes obvious that my pinnacle of reaching in medicine actually was nothing. That was garbage. I actually went the wrong way. Healthcare was in the opposite direction. I was fighting more to get out of it. It was weird. Like, I don't know how you think you're getting people healthy by taking a knife and cutting them. It's just that gets them through the day. That's not healthcare. So in this role, the process that I'm going through, the result for me is now I see people real time, healthcare intervention medical, healthcare intervention physical, and we get the result. And it couldn't be better. So I think for people out there, you got to realize in medical world, we are distracting you. The hospitals are tricking you into thinking that they're the safe space. They are not. The hospital is not an environment where you should go feel relaxed and feel safe. You should go to a hospital and want to get out immediately, as fast as you can, and you should never want to go there ever again, because people go there to get cut open, injected with piles of chemicals, right, or die. So if you want to do those things, go to the hospital. If you don't, and you want to use the right chemicals in the right balance and actually restore your body's health foundationally, you go to a gym or a healthcare facility like RTS Health. I think that's all I got for the day.
It's pretty good.
We're going to end it on that note. Listen, two things. One, we have a client appreciation event coming up for our people. We would love more interest. If anybody has questions, concerns, thoughts, shoot them at us. Training questions, whatever.
Well, we're going to have a second part to the GLP-1 conversation because we get so many questions. So
yeah, there's tons coming.
If you want more or specifics, just ask.
Just ask. God bless. Enjoy your weekend.